Hello friends! Back with a visual novel called It Paints Me. I'm excited to see who's gonna paint me. Every night, I find myself alone in the studio, curtains drawn tight, my neat row of paint palettes and brushes in the same place on the drawer by the easel. The canvas upon it sits, as always, unfinished, Marie's half-painted face frozen in silent song. It's laid out, as it always is when I awaken here. Marie is nowhere to be found. She must still be at the theater. Even when the curtains fall and the stage lights dim, the night is forever young to its star sopranos. I would always wait outside her dressing room, roses in hand, scores of other bright-eyed admirers spilling through the halls, though she alone was mine, and I was hers. It's cold, bitterly cold tonight, but I still draw the curtains and open the windows wide. There's a stench in the room, deep and damp and sickly sweet, that I can't ever seem to be rid of. Besides that, the fumes from the linseed oil made my head spin. Like every night, I measure out my paints, arranging the small dabs of color on my palette from lightest to darkest. Titanium white and cadmium yellow to corpse brown and lamp black. I wet my brush with the oil and gently start mixing the pigments. It feels just a little bit like magic, watching them swirl and mix, forming new colors from old. Okay, so we can either paint her hair or paint her face. So it looks like her hair is already here, so how about we, unless that means she's faceless, let's paint her face. I mix a tone as warm as her cheeks as I envision Marie's sweet face in my mind's eye. Her lips like roses, the graceful turn of her nose, those eyes that glittered like stars under candlelight. It's no use. I can't focus, her features are blurred in my mind as the mess of oil and pigment smeared across my canvas. I sigh and scrape it off with a palette knife, and mix a deep blend of black and red for the background instead. I apply my paint with a generous dab of oil, but it seems I didn't have to. The canvas is still wet from last night and the night before. I must have painted and repainted the same background countless times. To say it's difficult to paint by lamplight, my muse nowhere in sight, is an understatement, of course, but lately, these nightly hours are the only time I find myself able to lift up my brush. I stop every few strokes.
Spirits, it hurts.
I had joked that the pain that forced me away from the tailor shop meant I could finally return to my paintings, at the very least. I was never any good at humor. Just like I'm never any good at reading. Marie had sensed my worries, consoled me sweetly in her voice like a charm stone to life.
Oh, Sam, don't worry. I have roles lined up for months. Go ahead and paint. We can still live comfortably.
It hurt. A small part of it did, beyond the physical, beyond the ailments, to seek her permission. To be able to care for my darling, the way I had when we were young, brimming with talent, but crushingly unknown. Well, she had been. I was and still am nothing. But perhaps, finally, it would now be my turn to bring my vision to the world. If only it didn't hurt so damned much. Time passes, and I still don't manage more than a few strokes, a small patch of dark over an already wet canvas. Or perhaps time hasn't passed at all. The broken clock on the wall would suggest as much, Perhaps the seconds have lain still, the world outside unchanging, and I the only thing that moves. Have I moved? Is repeating the same brushstrokes like a clockwork doll movement? I shiver and sigh. Perhaps sleep would be the better endeavor. Perhaps the next night will meet more success. I stand, setting aside my paints and palettes, and slowly move to shut the windows. I stop. There, out in the front garden, barely lit by a street lamp, stands a figure that can only be Marie. She bids goodbye to another figure, tall and broad-shouldered, and then she laughs, a beautiful laugh, a heartfelt laugh, and embraces him before he makes his reluctant exit on the carriage stopped by the gate. Uh-oh, that's not a good sign. For a moment, I don't know what to think. A friend, a co-star, perhaps an amiable tenor she mentioned every now and then. I didn't see his face, but Marie's social circle has always eclipsed my own. It must be, but why would he come to our home? Why would she laugh that way? In the garden, in the midst of walking to the front door, humming to herself, Marie suddenly looks up. For a moment, her eyes go wide, and she blinks as if shaking herself from a daze. I instinctively step back from the windows. Perhaps it's guilt that makes me do so. Marie is finally home, and oh, I've missed her so. How could the first thing I think upon seeing my darling be the worst thoughts my mind could conjure? For the first time in many, many nights, I feel just well enough to leave the studio. I'll prepare Marie a pot of her favorite chamomile tea. I'll listen as she tells me of the nights, the theater, the thousand small anecdotes she never runs out of, and maybe, just maybe, ask her again to sit for a portrait for me, like she used to. The house feels larger than it used to. Perhaps I was shut in the studio too long. Still, how could I so quickly become a stranger to my own home? The memories are fuzzy, the years blur together like a wash of oil colors. My mother and I, carrying our sparse luggage, stepping inside for the first time. My stepfather laughing, his elbows on the breakfast table, chattering over something he had read in the paper. Then silent hallways and empty rooms. And then myself, welcoming my new bride to these solitary halls, hanging on newly taken portraits above the mantel. The walls are barren now. I feel the walls in the dark, leaving sticky trails of paint behind, tracing the places where I used to hang. Used to hang? Oh my gosh. Okay, used to hang the photographs or the paintings? Well, I mean, he's a painter, so I suppose the paintings? The paintings I'd framed, the seaside landscape I'd painted on our honeymoon, the watercolor sketch of Marie that couldn't hope to capture the sheen of her hair. The still life of candles and flowers that had wilted because I took so long to finish. Even the painting of roses in a vase, the first gift I'd ever given her.
I wanted to bring you some flowers, but I was afraid they would wilt before I saw you next.
You painted them. Oh, they're beautiful, Sam.
So cute. The naked walls still stare blankly at me. Confused, but with nowhere else to go, I continue through the house. As I walk, I pass the furniture my stepfather left me, the shelves and tables that always seemed so large and grand as a boy, now missing or mantled in thick white linen. They remind me of corpses on the hospital table, lying dead still, covered in sheets. Marie? Uh-oh. I tried to call out, but phlegm blocks my throat. I cough long and drawn and wet, and then once more attempt to voice her name. Marie. The slick off my tongue like a serpent uncoiling. I had always loved her name, so tender and sweet, free of harsh syllables. Marie. It was a name like an impressionist fleur, painted in soft strokes with a fine oil brush. It was the greatest joy in the world to join my name to hers. Silence fills the halls, a long, drawn-out silence, a held breath. Finally, my darling answers.
Sam.
Oh?
Is this a dream?
I cough again, another long, wet trail dripping from my lips.
Is it a good dream, darling?
Oh.
I don't know. It feels like a nightmare.
Uh-oh.
An awful, wretched nightmare.
Uh-oh. Why? I limp towards the sound of her voice, so musical, so lovely, even at the brink of tears. Don't cry, darling, I want to say, but thick, syrupy liquid fills my throat. No matter what troubles you, I'm here. She stands at the edge of the staircase, shaking, a candlestick in a hand. The steps are sticky and wet. I inch carefully, practically at a crawl, not to slip. My darling lifts the candle as I approach. In the dark of the house, its flickering flame almost blinds me. I don't see the expression on her face as she screams. Are we I think we're a
Marie?
ghost.
Where
Are we
are
a
you, my
ghost?
darling?
A ghoul? Zombie? Every word feels like a dagger puncturing my throat. I limp down each hall, leaving a trail of steps that feel damp and heavy, slick and wet. I try the door to our bedroom. No, Marie's room. I had started sleeping in the spare one when my coughing fits would wake her in the night. It was cold, so cold, alone, but my darling needed her rest. The knob is slick and hard to twist, my hand slipping from the brass. Finally, I managed to push the door open. Though it's completely dark when I peer inside, I know it is empty. No warmth, no flesh, no sound of sweet breath within. I continue down the hall. I trudge, my steps heavy and wet, trying not to slip over the thick, slick surface.
Marie, what's wrong, darling? Please come out. I don't understand.
Uh-oh. The dining room is empty, truly empty. The shelves where the china and silverware were once neatly stacked now gape, hollow. The walnut tables covered in a thick white sheet, the matching set of chairs removed. I rest against the blanketed table. My hand leaves a ruddy smear against the sheet. It must be more paint, though it's hard to make out in the dark. I'd needed spectacles for quite some time, but Marie had never liked the bookish type. I continue on through the familiar yet unfamiliar house, my steps strained and slow, my breaths short, sticky and wet.
Marie, where are you? Oh, Marie, it hurts. Won't you come to me?
I think Sam became a creepypasta. I heard the front door slam shut. It must be freezing cold out. Why has she gone to the garden? I tread to the sound with new urgency, uncaring of the sticky wet floors, forgetting for just a moment the pain that snaps and burns through my flesh. I reach for the oily, damp knob.
Don't! Sam! Please!
Her voice rings from behind the door.
I don't understand, darling. Have I done something to upset you?
Her sobs echo loudly. I never thought an ugly sound could come from my darling's lips, but her words.
I love you, Sam. I always will. But I can't bear to see you like this. Please, I beg of you, return to where you came. You can't be here. I've moved on now.
Oh, so we are ghosts.
What?
Spooky, scary skeletons.
Return where? Dearest, you aren't making
The hell,
any sense.
Sam? Sheesh.
Moved on? I'm your husband, Marie. What on earth is there to move on from?
Please remember, Sam. You were ill. You were ill for a long, long time. And you never recovered.
We're a
I know
zombie.
I'm unwell, Marie. But you said we would still... Are you leaving me?
Can I make Minecraft zombie
Because I
noises?
can't care for you anymore? Is that it?
You left me. You're dead, Sam.
Whoa!
You've been dead for more than a year.
Revelation!
If this is a joke, darling, it's a cruel one. Do you want me dead? Is that it? Am I better off dead to you?
My darling does nothing but sob behind the door. How quickly I regret my words. Oh, if only I could see her face, look into her eyes, reassure her, and see that she loves me still. I twist the knob with slick, oily hands.
No! Don't come out! Please!
On the other end, with a sharp gasp, my darling grasped the knob closed, pushing the weight of her small frame against the weathered wood.
Don't come out!
Oh my gosh, we can force the door open or let her go. I feel like forcing the door open is not the best option here. Let's just let her go. I let go of the door, my hand slicking off its oily surface.
Forgive me, Marie. I can see that you don't want to speak to me right now. But whenever you do, whatever this is about, I'll be waiting in the studio.
I leave the door. I leave my darling alone, sobbing in the garden. It's dark, so very dark, but dawn will soon paint the dim black sky. I retrace my slick, wet footsteps through the hall, up the staircase, one trudging damp step at a time.
Spirits, it hurts.
Oh, I thought he was gonna finish. Guess not. It burns. I feel no breath in my lungs. My chest could be a hollow cavity, slippery and wet, spilling with hot, sickly fluid.
It hurts. Oh, it hurts.
I staggered into a tall, sheet-covered object, the linen sliding off with a grasp of my clumsy, slick fingers. It's Marie's floor-length mirror. We get to see ourselves.
Oh, no.
What do we look like? What do we look like?
No, 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 no!
Could it be that bad? Let's see. Oh! Wait, he kind of looks cool. Wait, that's what Marie was scared of? Oh, we look like something out of Tokyo Ghoul. That's so cool. I'm in the studio, a dark, dim studio, and empty as it is every night. The curtains are shut, the lamps are unlit. My palette is a mess of murky colors, rust reds, corpse browns. A musky, sickly, sweetly rotting stench fills the room. I don't know why the smell of linseed oil ever bothered me. After all, I no longer breathe. The handle of the door turns behind me. Slowly, it creaks open and a figure steps inside. Oh my god, our mouth. We got one of those like leech mouths. Oh man. I wonder how many licks it takes him to get to the end of a Tootsie Pop. It's me. He limps more than he steps in crooked motions against the floor, dragging his body along like a wet, wide brush as swaths of red pool at his feet. I watch him pull himself before the canvas.
Samuel.
He speaks in my mother's voice, a tone that could swell the warmth or derision, command or dependency, pride or disappointment in a moment's notice.
Please, give up your suffering. Give up this. Come back to the earth with me.
My hands are too slick to hold my brush. I stab it into my flesh and fix it between my bones, then dip the bristles into his blood.
Sammy.
In the same cadence, I imagined him taking his last breath, crimson staining his uniform, the dog tags cold around his neck.
Don't suffer anymore, Sam. You are nothing already. Forget your pain. Return to the void with us.
My brush is drying. I plunge it into my chest, wet it with his oily breath.
Sam?
He speaks with my voice, hoarse and raspy and tired, so very, very tired.
This won't make you worthy of love. Not the world's, not Marie's, not your friends or peers or critics. Come back to our grave. End our suffering. You know I don't do this for love.
I clean my brush with the paint thinner, knocking over the jar as it spills, across the drawer and onto the wet, soaking floor. I dry the bristles on my worn, rotting shirt, then soak it in the thick white mucus of his tears. My words are only partially true, just as his words are not fully wrong. Neither my rotting corpse nor the memory of what once was Sam will gain a thing from this toil. I paint the hours away, or perhaps take no time at all. The clock on the wall never turns its hands, suggesting that the world lies still. The seconds never pass, and I am the only thing that moves within it. It hurts, oh, it hurts. Heavy, syrupy tears flood my vision, fill my throat, my chest, choking me. Every movement of my hands leaves cracks and what's left of my brittle bones. He stares at me, but all the while silent, still like a mirror. If I loved him, I would stop. I would crawl to my grave like he wishes. But I love this more than I love myself. I birth him from within me. As I create, so too am I born.
And he and I are beautiful.
Oh. Is that doesn't look like Marie. Oh, self-portrait. We got the second ending. Wow, okay. That's pretty cool. I really like that. I feel like, yeah, I could totally tell it was Sam was a ghost to begin with. Or like some type of ghoul and stuff. I don't really know what the icons like Agony and like the other one, I forget the other one's names, but what they were all about. I guess they were kind of like reflections of like his dead family and stuff, and I guess himself as well, telling him to move on. But I suppose Samuel just, he couldn't move on. He just loved painting that much. And you know what, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if he likes painting, he likes painting. That was fun. Might go ahead and try getting the other ending too. But that's it for right now.